is made. Using this system, CMS can identify patterns of fraud and deny claims, suspend payment, or revoke Medicare billing privileges for suspicious actors. During the first 10 months of operation, this new fraud prevention system has resulted in 591 new investigations and 550 direct interviews with providers suspected of participating in fraudulent activity. CMS investigators now watch billing patterns in real time. If a provider submits a claim that seems inconsistent, for example, a bill from San Francisco for a patient who lives in Maine, then it triggers a flag in the system. Medicare contractors then investigate the suspicious leads that this new system produces. The fraud prevention system now monitors 4.5 million claims every day. It's a big step forward to prevent Medicare fraud, and I'm eager to see how well it's working and what improvements can be made to make it work even better. One of the questions I have for our witnesses today is how, with a shift from pay and chase to fraud prevention, we should evaluate CMS successes. Our typical measures, like the dollar value of fraud recoveries, might not be the right measures of success if you're actually preventing the fraud. So, because if CMS is successful at preventing the fraud in the first place, we would expect the dollar value of the recoveries to go down, not up, but we would still have to figure out how much fraud we were preventing. This hearing today will primarily focus on CMS's use of contractors to monitor claims, investigate suspicious activity, and refer cases to law enforcement authorities. Congress mandates that CMS use these contractors, and the alphabet soup of Medicare integrity organizations, we're talking about this at our office, ZPICs, Medics, PSCs, RACs, MACs, have become a part of the efforts to fight fraud. The HHS Inspector General has identified problems with the contractors and CMS oversight of their work going back for at least a decade. And having been on this committee for the past 16 years, I know that we have investigated some of these contractors. These are long-standing problems, but the IG's work has raised important questions that we need to learn more about today. Are Medicare anti-fraud contractors using uniform standards to identify and investigate cases of fraud and refer them to law enforcement authorities? Is CMS doing all it can to respond to concerns raised by contractors and reduce the fraud vulnerabilities they've identified? Are contractors and CMS taking appropriate action to ensure mistakes are fixed and overpayments reclaimed for the taxpayer? Mr. Chairman, I want to make a suggestion as we look further into this issue. At our next hearing, I suggest we bring the contractors in directly and get their perspective on these issues. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if there's more we can do to reduce Medicare fraud, I'm happy to work with you and our colleagues on both sides of the aisle to address this important issue. Nobody wants to see taxpayer money wasted, and we should be doing everything possible to protect the integrity of the Medicare program. And, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Waxman's unable to be with us this morning, so I'd ask unanimous consent to put his opening statement in.
Unanimous consent, so ordered. And I think...
Oh, wait. Okay. Yeah, Ms. Kamiskowski give an opening statement? Yes, yeah. Okay. Yes, thank you, Mr.
And I appreciate the gentlelady's willingness to cooperate, and I think her idea of bringing the contractors in is very good. With that, I recognize for 3 minutes the gentleman from Texas, Dr. Burgess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the recognition, and maybe acknowledging the ranking member's comments. A metric that we could employ in the future is how many years the CMS or Medicare payment system is not on the high-risk list at GAO. It seems like it spent the last 25 years there. That might be a good metric where we could concentrate and all understand that perhaps we're finally doing a good job with this, because apparently we're not, and we all know that not enough has been done to address fraud. Our nation's healthcare systems needlessly waste billions of dollars every year. It seems like this embarrassing hemorrhage for the program really should have been a priority to fix before these programs were expanded under the Affordable Care Act. Analysts estimate that up to 10% of the total healthcare expenditures are lost yearly to fraud. That's a pretty big number, probably over $1 billion a week. Now, members of the United States Congress rightly were outraged when a private industry, J.P. Morgan Chase, lost $2 billion of investor money. We lose $2 billion of taxpayer money twice a month, and yet there are no headlines on that. Perhaps if we had the appropriate focus, we would do our job. If we're serious about bringing down the cost of health care, we have to eliminate, not just reduce, but eliminate these inappropriate payments. Medicare spending currently represents 15% of federal spending and almost a fifth of national health care spending. Yet we've paid providers in practically an automatic fashion without review or scrutiny, actually inviting the type of behavior that we're getting. I support prompt pay. As a physician, that's critically important to our providers across the country, but the size, the scope, the complexity of the Medicare program makes this highly susceptible to fraud, highly susceptible to mismanagement, highly susceptible to improper payments. The U.S. Government Accountability Office and others have said these characteristics are unsustainable, and the GAO has placed Medicare on its high-risk list since 1990. That was after the program had been in effect for 25 years. We're rapidly approaching the 50-year anniversary, and once again, I would suggest that it would be a great 50-year anniversary goal to remove Medicare off of the high-risk list that the GAO maintains. Our office has been briefed on the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services efforts to move away from a pay-and-chase mindset into one that builds on predictive modeling. That's a great step, and I welcome it. I've long suspected these programs are already proving to be an innovative way to build upon each other, and 9 original algorithms in just a few months have grown to over 30. However, back-end investigations will remain a part of what the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services does for some time. Currently, they oversee a network of private contractors that conduct various program integrity activities. But as Ranking Member DeGette points out, it may be necessary to have these individuals into the committee to understand their steps to solve this problem. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for calling the hearing, and I'll yield back the balance of my time.
Recognize the gentlelady for how many minutes that she consumed? Oh, you can have the 5 minutes. Ms. Tchaikovsky.
I don't know that I'll take that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that everyone on both sides of the aisle on this committee, as well as the Obama administration, makes fraud prevention absolutely a priority. So I hope there's no misunderstanding about that we're all working together to do that. In May of 2009, Health and Human Services and DOJ announced the creation of the Healthcare Fraud Prevention and Enforcement Team, HEAT, designed to coordinate cabinet-level agency activities to reduce fraud. In January 2010, HHS and DOJ held the first National Summit on Healthcare Fraud to bring together public and private sector experts to identify and discuss ways to investigate and eliminate healthcare fraud. In fiscal year 2011, HEAT's efforts resulted in 132 indictments against defendants who collectively billed the Medicare program more than $1 billion, as well as 17 jury trials and the imprisonment of 175 defendants. And in April 2010, CMS established the Center for Program Integrity, consolidating the agency's Medicare and Medicaid anti-fraud activities in an effort to improve coordination between the two programs with other agencies at the state and local level. Since 2009, CMS, with law enforcement partners, has recovered $7.87 billion in fraudulent Medicare payments, $2.51 billion in 2009, $2.86 billion in 2010, and $2.5 billion in 2011. And since the passage of the Affordable Care Act, which I affectionately call Obamacare, the Obama administration has implemented key anti-fraud provisions in the law. The ACA contains over 30 provisions to help CMS, HHS, OIG, and DOJ to reduce Medicare and Medicaid fraud. The most important provisions involve a shift from the traditional pay-and-chase approach to a strategy based on prevention, keeping fraudulent suppliers out of the program before they can commit fraud. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates that these provisions will save taxpayers over $7 billion over the next decade. Clearly, we want to do as much as we can, and if there's more to be saved, which we all think there is, we should do it. So today, what I want to do is talk to the witnesses and find out just what those tools are, how they're being implemented, and how we can all work together to make sure that these all work to the benefit of the consumer and the taxpayer. We want to look at that OIG report on vulnerabilities reported by the Medicare Benefit Integrity Contractors. Certainly we want to make sure that they're doing their job, and all of us will pursue this together to make the Medicare program even more efficient and to root out all the every dollar of fraud. And I will yield back.
And gentlelady yields back. And does anyone else seek an opening statement? Do we have a couple of minutes left? If not, we'll move to our witnesses. We have three witnesses. Mr. Robert A. Vito, who is Regional Inspector General, Office of Evaluations and Inspections, Office of Inspector General, the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Welcome you. Ms. Kathleen M. King, Director, Healthcare, U.S. Government Accountability Office. And Mr. Ted Doolittle, Deputy Director, Center for Program Integrity, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Welcome. As you know, the testimony that you're about to give is subject to Title 18, Section 1001 of the United States Code. When holding an investigative hearing, this committee has a practice of taking testimony under oath. Do you have any objection to taking testimony under oath? No? The Chair then advises you that under the rules of the House and the rules of the committee, you are entitled to be advised by counsel. Do you desire to be advised by counsel at this time? Okay. In that case, you please rise and raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Welcome again, and Mr. Vito, we welcome your 5-minute summary of your written statement. Just make sure your speaker's on.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. I am Robert Vito, Regional Inspector General for the Office of Evaluation and Inspections at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General. Thank you for your continued interest in this important topic. For more than a decade, the OIG has been conducting work on Medicare Benefit Integrity Contractors. OIG has reviewed the fraud units at the Medicare claims processors, then the Program Safeguard Contractors, or PSCs, and now the Zone Program Integrity and the Medicare Drug Integrity Contractors, known as ZPICs and MEDICs. Time after time, regardless of the type of contractor under review, the OIG work has uncovered similar problems. These problems include limited results from proactive data analysis, difficulties in obtaining data needed to prevent and detect fraud, a lack of program vulnerability identification and resolution, inaccurate and inconsistent data reported by contractors, and limited use by the CMS of quantitative data in evaluating contractor performance and investigating variability across contractors. Finally, the OIG has found that very few of the overpayments identified by the benefit integrity contractors are collected and returned to the Medicare program. CMS expects its benefit contractors to do more than just investigate complaints. They wanted their contractors to conduct proactive data analysis to identify fraud. As early as 1998, OIG raised concerns about the lack of results from proactive methods, and these concerns still remain. The lack of proactive and early identification of fraud results in the Medicare program relying on familiar pay-and-chase models rather than the risk reduction model that includes early detection prevention of inappropriate payments. We all recognize that without data, there can be no proactive data analysis. However, OIG repeatedly found that contractors have difficulty accessing data, especially in the early years of their contracts. The Congress can help correct this problem by authorizing the medics to obtain information like prescriptions directly from pharmacies and physicians. Another way to help prevent fraud, waste, and abuse is to identify program vulnerabilities. OIG's early review of fraud units found that more than one-third had not identified any program vulnerabilities. During a 2011 review, OIG found that not all benefit contractors identified vulnerabilities. And even when vulnerabilities were identified, CMS had not taken significant action to resolve 3/4 of them. The reported impact of the vulnerability was estimated at over $1 billion. OIG also found that CMS has not taken full advantage of the contractor-reported data to evaluate performance or investigate variability among contractors. The OIG has found extreme variation in the number of fraud cases being investigated and referred by the benefit integrity contractors. These variations could not be explained by the size of the contractor's budget or the oversight responsibility. In addition, OIG work has repeatedly found that CMS performance evaluations provide very few quantitative data about the contractor's achievement in detecting fraud. OIG's most recent ZPIC review also found that data used by CMS to oversee the contractors may not be uniform or accurate. Some of the inaccurate data may be due in part to the contractor's different interpretation of fraud terms and definitions. OIG has recommended that CMS determine the cause of these variation in the contractor's activity levels. However, CMS is yet to perform these types of review. Benefit integrity contractors are also required to refer overpayments that they identified to the Medicare claims processor for collection. In a report done in response to a request from this committee, OIG found the PSCs referred $835 million in overpayments to the claims processor for collection in 2007. However, as of June 2008, only $55 million of the $835 million was collected. CMS is implementing new anti-fraud tools as part of its twin-pillar strategy. As the OIG did in the past, we will continue to review CMS's strategy to determine its impact on the Medicare program and, if warranted, make recommendations for improving the strategy. OIG also plans to continue its body of work on the Medicare benefit integrity contractors, including an update of our previous work on the medics. We also have work underway on Medicare overpayments and debt collection. Thank you again for your interest in this important topic and for the opportunity to testify before the subcommittee today.
Thank you, Mr. Vito. Ms. King, we welcome your opening statement. I don't think you have. Do you have your mic on? That's not the mic. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Deguette, and members of the subcommittee, I'm pleased to be here today to discuss our work regarding fraud in the Medicare program, as well as recent laws and agency actions that may help reduce fraud. Multi-million-dollar fraud convictions demonstrate that fraud is a significant problem for Medicare. However, the full extent of the problem is not known. There are no reliable estimates of fraud for the Medicare program or for the healthcare industry as a whole. By its very nature, fraud can be difficult to detect, as those involved are engaged in intentional deception. My testimony today focuses on the steps CMS has taken to reduce fraud and on additional steps we have recommended to them, as well as work that we have underway. Congress provided CMS with new tools to reduce fraud in the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act and the Small Business Jobs Act. I want to focus on three key strategies. First, strengthening provider enrollment standards and procedures. Second, improving pre- and post-payment claims review. And third, developing a robust process for addressing identified vulnerabilities, which are weaknesses that can lead to payment errors. With respect to provider enrollment, CMS has taken important steps to ensure that only legitimate providers and suppliers are enrolled to bill Medicare. Specifically, in accordance with PPACA, CMS designated 3 levels of risk. Those at the highest risk levels are subject to the most rigorous screening. In addition, CMS recently contracted with 2 contractors to automate enrollment processes and to conduct site visits for new providers in the moderate and high in risk categories to ensure that they are legitimate providers. We urge CMS to fully implement other key PPACA provisions, such as requiring surety bonds for providers designated as high risk, conducting fingerprint-based criminal background checks, and requiring key disclosures from providers and suppliers before enrollment, such as whether they have ever been suspended from a federal health program. Our work has also shown that prepayment reviews are essential to help ensure that Medicare pays correctly the first time. CMS's contractors use automated prepayment controls called edits, which are instructions programmed into IT systems to check to see if providers are eligible for payment and if claims comply with Medicare's coverage and payment policies. We have previously found weaknesses in some of these prepayment edits and are currently evaluating prepayment edits regarding coverage and payment policies. We are also currently reviewing CMS's newest effort, the Fraud Prevention System, which uses predictive analytic technologies to analyze fee-for-service claims on a prepayment basis. These technologies are used to review claims for potential fraud by identifying unusual or suspicious patterns or abnormalities in Medicare provider networks, claims billing patterns, and beneficiary utilization. We have also found that CMS could take additional steps in improving its post-payment review of claims, which are critical to identifying payment errors. In particular, the agency could make better use of two information technology tools designed to provide them with more data and analytical tools for fighting fraud: the Integrated Data Repository and the One Program Integrity School. We have also found that CMS needs a more robust process for identifying vulnerabilities that can lead to fraud. In our work on the Medicare Recovery Audit Contract Program, we recommend that CMS improve its process for implementing corrective actions regarding vulnerabilities. We have also recently been asked to evaluate the ZPICs, the Zone Program Integrity Contractors, and we expect to start that work soon. In conclusion, CMS has several tools at its disposal and has taken important steps toward preventing fraud. However, more work is ahead. Those intent on committing fraud will continue to find ways to do so, so continuing vigilance is critical. We will continue to assess efforts to fight fraud and provide recommendations to CMS as we see appropriate. We urge CMS to continue its efforts as well. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my prepared remarks. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Doolittle, welcome for your opening statement.
Thank you, sir. My name is Ted Doolittle. I'm the Deputy Director of the Center for Program Integrity within CMS. Chairman Stearns, Ranking Member DeGette, before I give my statement,
I think you need to pull the mic a little closer.
Yes, sir. How's that?
Yeah, it's better. Thanks.
Okay. So before I give my statement, I wanted to personally apologize for the compilation mistakes in the information that CMS first provided in response to Chairman Upton's recent oversight request. One of our greatest priorities is to always provide accurate information to Congress, and as a former federal prosecutor, I recognize the importance of having accurate data on which to base important public decisions. So I am very chagrined by that occurrence. I'm sorry we didn't live up to that standard, and in response to your recent data request, I want you to know that we do take this problem very seriously. I've already asked my staff to investigate what happened and to determine how we can prevent problems like this in the future. Chairman Stearns, I would like to, I hope that today I can show to you that we're indeed not complacent about oversight. We welcome it. And I also at least hope to convince you that I am awake. I'm not just awake, I'm excited about trying to discharge the responsibilities that Congress has given to us in this tough fight against healthcare fraud. So I want you to know that we welcome your oversight. We welcome the oversight also of the GAO and the OIG. And frankly, I hope that this exchange that we're going to have today is the first step in a renewed partnership, and perhaps a series of oversight events. I wanted to make sure the data we gave you was clean so that you can perhaps be able to look at it in the future and be able to compare with a good baseline. So we're changing a lot of our operations, and the way we compile data is one of the changes that we're making, and I hope to improve. So I came here today to speak about CMS's program integrity efforts and how they're moving away from pay and chase and toward fraud prevention through two new automatic systems, one called the Automated Provider Screening System, which I'll be referring to as APS, and one called the Fraud Prevention System, which I'll call FPS. The Automated Provider Screening System is the first line of defense in protecting us against fraudsters and ineligible providers who would do harm to the program if they got in. It enables us for the first time to very rapidly conduct routine and automated screening checks against thousands of private and public databases to more efficiently identify and remove ineligible providers and suppliers. The fraud prevention system, for its part, is a historic development, and it's a way to apply advanced analytics against Medicare fee-for-service claims on a streaming and national basis. We hope in the future to expand that to include Part C, D, and Medicaid. That's a very long-term goal, of course. These two new systems are key to our twin pillars strategy, which is a key to making real improvements to Medicare's program integrity efforts as we try to focus on prevention and detection and move away from pay and chase. As OIG's data has shown, our Medicare administrative contractors who screen and enroll providers and process 4.5 million claims each day are not able to always collect the overpayments that our anti-fraud contractors, the ZPICs, identify. The reason for that is simple. The mission of the ZPICs is to find fraudsters. When we find fraudsters, when they learn that we're onto them, they can abscond with the money. That makes it very difficult to get the money back. The point of the ZPICs is while we don't want to back away from the overpayments, and we do recover up to 10% of that, and that is real money. If you're looking for cash back into the program, you have to look to other of our contractors, such as the RACs. It's just difficult to get money out of a fraudster in any arena, be it public or private. So because of the challenges with the outdated pay and chase approach, we're moving toward a focus on prevention, as I mentioned, to keep bad actors out of our program, to kick them out when we find them, and to use our array of administrative tools to stop payment when we suspect fraud. Overpayments are only part of the Medicare program integrity story, and we're moving toward a more comprehensive and sophisticated view of how we should view these improvements and the difficulties in our performance and our contractors' performance. I assure you, members of the panel, that we're currently developing metrics to measure not just the fraud prevention system, but our entire operation. And with respect to the fraud prevention system, you should be on the lookout for our report on the first year, and that is due to Congress on September 30th. And you will find there, I hope, a really thought-provoking first attempt, first cut at trying to move to a true metrics around prevention and detection. The fraud prevention system is providing today CMS with a national view. It gives us the opportunity to divide the work up amongst the ZPICs. They formerly didn't know what the other might be working on. The right hand didn't necessarily know. Now we do because of this new system. It'll be much more easy for us to see whether a ZPIC has referred an investigation to law enforcement or has requested a payment suspension. We're currently working around a lot of metrics, as I mentioned, but we're working specifically to develop weekly reports based on the information in the FPS that we can share with the ZPICs and our law enforcement partners so that we can summarize all the investigative activity around the country. CMS is now at a major and very exciting, in my view, transitional period for program integrity. It's not without its bumps along the way. And in terms of bumps, I certainly apologize for the data errors in the oversight requests. And again, I'm working to make sure that doesn't happen again. I want to stress that the changes that are being put into place now are going to modernize and simplify our current data systems so that problems like this can be avoided. And so our program integrity strategy overall will improve. Thank you so much for your attention. And again, I do hope that we can continue this dialogue.
All right, I'll start my questions. Mr. Doolittle, thank you for your apology. It was a little startling to the staff to get information from you folks, and then when we called recently to find out the information we asked for was totally incorrect. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is I think this is a little embarrassing to you, considering you have the necessary people to provide the information, don't you?
Yes, we do, sir. And
do you have the necessary equipment, computers and things that you can accurately provide the committee the information in the future?
Yes, sir.
When do you think we can actually get the latest and greatest information that's accurate that you feel comfortable sending us?
We're working, of course, as hard as possible. I can't tell you exactly the date. It's going to be as soon as possible. We'll re-update all the detailed sheets behind the summary.
Well, since fraud is a major issue for the American people and this committee, and to find that you don't have a handle on this and that the information you provided by your own admission is incorrect, don't you think that creates a disturbing sense of confidence in the committee and the American people to think that you, as in your position, cannot even provide information on a consistent basis, and yet you're the Deputy Director, Center for Program Integrity, as I understand it, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So don't you think that that leaves us with a sense of incredulity and lack of credibility and integrity on your department?
I can't tell you what sense you're left with, sir, but I can tell you that in this instance there was a human error. The underlying data was accurate, but two fields that were added together shouldn't have been added
well,
together.
this is across the board on the data you gave us. It's not just two fields. And it's also, this is not the first time. Wouldn't you agree on that?
Not the first time for what, sir?
Getting information to us that was incorrect.
This is I am aware of this. We're working to.
You submitted figures to us in March of this year. Were initially inaccurate. Isn't that true?
Well, they were actually based on accurate data, and they were correct in that sense. The integrity of the data is sound. It was a human error. We've never
back in March.
Yes, we've
okay.
never compiled.
I'm just trying to confirm that back in March you gave us information that was incorrect.
Right.
Okay, that's all we need to know.
Okay.
And so you're saying the information we recently got is incorrect, and you're saying that you'll get this new information to us. You're not clear when. Yes or no? Do you have the correct numbers in front of you?
I have what was given to your staff last night.
Oh, so you haven't got anything corrected in front of you yet. Okay. Yes or no, since 2007, has the total number of investigations initiated, have they steadily declined?
I wouldn't say that they've steadily declined. I think it's been up and down.
So you're saying they have not declined?
I would say that if you look across that there has been...
Our figures show they declined.
Excuse me?
Our figures show that they declined. Is that true? Can any one of the panelists confirm that the total number of investigations initiated has steadily declined? Ms. King? I need you to put the speaker on.
Are you speaking about investigations done by the ZPICs?
Yes.
No, I don't know the answer to that, but
okay.
I can tell you that we are doing work that tracks the number of investigations and convictions, both civil and criminal, in 2005 and
okay.
2010.
Mr. Doolittle, I have something that you have in front of you in which you show that the ZPIC's workload, 2007, the total number of investigations was 8,300. In 2008, it went down to 7,700. 2009, 6,800. 2010, 5,800. And 2011, about 5,800. So it looks to me, from the data that you provided and the data you have in front of you, it declined. Is the data that you provided here incorrect too?
No, you were right, sir. And if you would like a further explanation.
No, that's all right, because
okay.
you had indicated they had not declined, but I just wanted to clear to that you're incorrect again. CMS purports to be shifting its emphasis to prevention based upon proactive data analysis. Yes or no, is the total number of investigations initiated as a result of proactive data analysis lower than each of the previous 4 years? Yes or no?
For the 2011, no.
Okay.
Excuse me. Let me.
Because when I'm looking at the figure that you also
for
had,
ZPICs, yes. For ZPICs, yes.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, so they have declined. We've established that. Mr. Vito, does it surprise you that CMS was unable to provide basic contractor performance data to this committee?
I think it's very...
Just yes or no. Can you pull the mic a little closer? I mean, we're not asking how to get to the moon here. We're just asking a yes or no question here.
Could you repeat the question?
Mm-hmm. Does it surprise you that CMS is unable to provide basic contractor performance data to this committee? They're responsible. They're the Integrity Office. They've admitted that They have not provided information that's accurate. Does that surprise you? Yes or no? Or is this typical what you expect from CMS?
No, I think we have been...
We think it's deplorable. What do you feel?
Well, we think that there's been problems with the data, and we have presented that information to you as part
But
of
isn't
that.
the fact is that your office has had the same issues with CMS providing accurate or uniform data that's hindered your ability to conduct critical oversight? Isn't that true?
We have identified problems for
Sometimes you
over
have to
12
say yes
years.
or no. Just yes or no. Isn't that
Yes,
true?
we have.
Yes. Has CMS adequately addressed these data concerns that OIG raised in its November 2011 report titled Zone Program Integrity Contractors?
I think it would be better to ask them if they resolved them. I'm not sure that they...
You don't know.
Well, we believe that some of them might and some of them might not be, so it would be better for you to ask them. I think they would have a better answer.
All right, my time's expired. Gentlelady from Colorado. Thank
you, Mr. Chairman. Well, we're obviously all concerned that we get accurate data. And I just want to ask you, Mr. Doolittle, the error in the data was a human error in your agency, is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And
underlying data were correct.
You discovered that on your own as an agency, is that correct?
Yes, on Wednesday.
You discovered it on Wednesday when preparing for this hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you discovered it, you informed the staff, and yesterday you provided the correct information to the committee at 5 o'clock?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you aware of any other situations since you've been there when incorrect data has been provided to this committee or to any other congressional committee?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay. And was this incorrect information provided willfully to try to avoid a thorough investigation, to your knowledge?
Quite to the contrary. It was a human error.
It was just an accident?
It was a human error, yes.
Okay. And what steps are you taking to make sure these... Let's see, my staff says this accident happened when a former employee, so they're not there anymore, right?
Yes.
Accidentally added up one wrong cell of a spreadsheet while summarizing data. So they added it up wrong, right?
That's right. They added in field B6 instead of field B7.
Listen, people need to show up at this committee with accurate information. I understand that you're going to get us even more accurate information, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when is that going to happen?
As soon as possible. A lot of this information does go back to 2007, so it goes to previous contractors.
Okay, well, get it to us as quickly as you can,
yes,
and let's try not to have this happen again. But what I really want to talk about is the fight against Medicare fraud. So let's talk a little bit about that. Briefly, Mr. Doolittle, can you tell me what the administration is doing that's different to try to fight Medicare and Medicaid fraud?
Yes, ma'am. We're moving away from pay and chase. We're starting, we have almost a year into our first major data analytics program, and we also have instituted automated provider screening that allows us to catch the bad guys on the front end before they get into the program and monitor them if they turn bad while they're in the program.
And so the administration is shifting to try to preventing fraud rather than to catch the evildoers, right?
That's right.
And there's this HEAT program, the Healthcare Fraud Prevention and Enforcement Team. As I understand it, this initiative aims to coordinate strategies to fight fraud among the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office, CMS, and the HHS Office of Inspector General. Is that right?
Yes, I would add FBI.
And there's an FBI, and there's anti-fraud strike forces in 7 regions of the country, right?
Yes.
So what's the purpose of the strike forces, and have they achieved any results yet?
The purpose of the strike force is to try to be able to accelerate and compress the time that it takes for criminal investigations and to get more throughput through the criminal justice system for healthcare fraud.
Okay. Mr. Vito, are you familiar with this HEAT program?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's your opinion of it?
Well, I think they're doing great things. It's in 9 locations. They charge more than 1,300 defendants, and they with over $4 billion that had billed over $4 billion. It's a way that the OIG uses data to identify the hotspots and then put the resources in that hot spot to make things happen.
And the prosecutions are way up, too, from 797 in fiscal year 2008 to almost double, 1,430 in 2011. Is that right? So that seems to be a pretty good avenue that we could go to try to catch criminals, right?
Yes.
Now, Ms. King, can you just briefly talk to me about some of the Affordable Care Act provisions that are targeted to reduce fraud, and have they begun to be implemented?
Some of the most important provisions, I think, in the Affordable Care Act have to do with enrollment processes, because it's important to try and keep out people that you think might be wanting to cheat you from entering the program. So there are new screening processes at the front end to take a closer look at providers, and they are stratified by risk, and there's increased scrutiny on providers deemed to be at high risk. And at the moment, those providers are home health providers and durable medical equipment providers.
And have those provisions gone into effect?
They have gone into effect.
When did they go into effect?
Earlier this year, I believe.
Earlier in 2012. And
Yes.
have you seen any results from them?
We have not. I mean, okay. I think it's too soon to really gauge the full effectiveness.
So when do you think you'll see results?
I would say in about a year we ought to be able to tell whether they're having.
Yeah, I just have one more question for Mr. Vito. This is an issue I raised in my opening statement. And Mr. Doolittle says they're trying to prevent fraud rather than catch the bad guys after they defraud Medicare. So the question is, what kind of metrics can we use to see if our efforts at prevention are actually working, if we're spending our money wisely? Because what you're going to do is have the number of people who are caught go down if you're preventing fraud.
I think there are a number of ways. I think that you're bringing a very good point. For example, in the program vulnerabilities, what you're able to do is you identify a program vulnerability, and then you put an edit in place. That edit will give you the dollars that they're saving. So that actually will work in one way of making you know exactly how well it's going. In addition to that, there's other metrics. Like in South Florida, they took a lot of action down there, the strike force in the DME area. We were told that the dollars that are now being billed in DME have dropped substantially. So there are all these good things that you can see, and they are difficult to make that comparison. The other thing is you'll never be able to determine the sentinel effect, and I think that's what you're asking about, is what when we go out and we make people realize that we're doing the job and that there's a chance that they're going to get caught, and if they get caught, they're going to have to pay. Those are the things that it's hard to keep an eye, to really determine that level of detail. Those are I think that's your point that you're bringing forth.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentlelady. Recognize Dr. Burgess for 5 minutes.
Mr. Vito, let's just pick up on that sentinel effect for just a moment, because that is an extremely important point, and part of the effectiveness of the sentinel effect is that people truly believe that you have a way to watch and are in fact watching. There is someone actually at the terminal watching. Because I can recall in the late 1990s, there was, in the Clinton administration, there was a great hue and cry. Janet Reno was really going to clamp down on Medicare fraud, and they went all around the country talking about this. But as a provider, I got the sense that it was all for show, that these were photo ops, so there wasn't anything really different happening. And I don't know whether that was an accurate opinion that I had, but certainly it wasn't unique to me. Other people talked about it as well. There was a program, and it was a crop insurance program. Charlie Stenholm, a Democrat from Texas, had worked with a Dr. Burt Little at, I think it was Tarleton State University, small college in West Texas, because Charlie was concerned about the amount of crop insurance fraud that he saw. And they worked on a computer algorithm, essentially predictive modeling, and they talked about it in the community about how this was going to be applied. And one of the first things they noticed was the request for crop insurance claims fell. And it was the sentinel effect that they were observing. So if you guys know that, and you know there's been other experiences in the crop insurance program right next door to your agency, Why has it been so difficult for this thought to permeate into the bureaucracy? I appreciate the stuff that's happening in the Affordable Care Act. Appreciate the enrollment process improvement. I got to tell you, I got my doubts there. But why not do this years ago if you knew that it worked?
A very good question. I would like to point out to you that the work of the OIG has recognized it's better to prevent fraud than actually pay and chase. And if you look at the work that we have talked about today, largely it focuses on preventing. In addition to that, once it occurs, you have to have swift, law enforcement action, and you have to take the prosecutions. And our Office of Investigation is one of the best groups that investigate healthcare fraud. And the people that prosecute it, I think we are doing our best now to move where people are starting to believe that they are at risk when they take advantage of this program. We have to do a better job up front. We have to make sure the people we're doing business with are the people that we want to do business with. And that's very important that happens. And then once things are starting, overpayments occur, we have to stay on top of that. We can't allow the overpayments to be billions of dollars, which we can't collect.
Yeah, well, let me just point out to you what I think is a problem. And I hear this all the time. People who make a legitimate coding error, and it is just an error. I mean, that's the low-hanging fruit in your system. And you can go after those folks and clobber them. But that ain't your problem. Your problem is down in McAllen, Texas. I was there 2 years ago after Atul Gawande's article was published. And the doctors down there were feeling significantly put upon, and would you come down and hear our story, hear our side of the story? And someone just offered to me, and I don't remember exactly the number, but they said we've grown from 40 home health agencies to 150 in about a year and a half's time. Well, that ought to be a red flag. There's something going on there. Were there all these people that needed home health services that were just being ignored previously? Or has somebody found a business model that works for them, and this business model may be actually outside the parameters of the law or what is lawfully allowed? Rather than going after an individual who may have made a coding error and calling them to task, why don't we go after the big stuff?
Well, again, that is when if you're doing proactive data analysis, you're going to be able to see that there's all of a sudden this many more home health agencies, there's this many more people getting these services, and there's this many more people billing for it. So then if you were doing that, then you could investigate that very quickly.
Well, why didn't we?
I don't know that answer, but I can tell you that we have focused, the OIG has focused on the importance of doing proactive data analysis to make sure that all this type of action is identified.
Okay, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I don't mean to be critical of it, but it just seems to me that sometimes we ignore the biggest problem and go after what's easy to correct. Mr. Doolittle, I just got to ask you, I mean, you'd have to be tone deaf in this town to not recognize the Supreme Court's considering a mighty big case, and in a week or two or three, we're all going to get the result of that case. And as a result of their opinion, the Affordable Care Act possibly could be struck from the books. Now, are your efforts at eliminating and reducing fraud and inappropriate payments, are they going to end when the Affordable Care Act ends?
No, they're not going to end. We have several other bills that we operate under, such as the HICFAC bill.
Correct. And it's not like you weren't doing anything before the Affordable Care Act was enacted to crack down on fraud. I mean, after all, Janet Reno came to Dallas, Texas in 1988 or 1999 and outlined all the things that she was doing to eliminate Medicare fraud. So you've been doing stuff all along. May not have been effective, but you've been doing stuff.
That's right, and we will implement any new tools.
Are you making any contingency plans for what might happen from an adverse ruling from the court?
Many of our activities, such for instance the FPS, the Fraud Prevention System, that's funded under the Small Business Jobs Act and authorized under the Small Business Jobs Act. That won't be affected. Many of our activities won't be affected.
Are you making any plans for a contingency if the Supreme Court were to remove the Affordable Care Act?
We're confident that the ACA is going to be upheld by the Supreme Court, and we're going to move forward.
Bill, you're taking the fifth on this too, huh? I can't get anybody from your agency. Are you looking at what's going to happen to you after sequestration kicks in January? Sequestration, after all, is a law that was signed by the president. You're going to be cut 7 to 8% across the board in discretionary funding at HHS. Are you preparing for that?
I'm not sure if the agency has been preparing for that. I haven't been party to those conversations.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like the record to reflect. I know that Mr. Burgess was using the phrase "taking the fifth" in a colloquial way, but however, the witnesses today are under oath, and I just want the record to reflect that none of the witnesses has actually exercised their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination.
I thank the gentlelady. The gentlelady from Illinois is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to note that though you certainly, we're all disappointed that there was an error in the data. The error was reported by Mr. Doolittle and his office. It's not like there was any effort to cover up that there was a mistake, either now or I understand in March that's true as well. That there is concern, maybe more so than we are, that a mistake is made. We all look forward to the corrections. And I just, for one, want to say, Mr. Doolittle, that I appreciate that you did inform the committee, and we obviously want you to do as quick a job to get us the information. But this isn't something that was another example of some sort of deliberate fraud on the part of CMS. Did you want to comment on that?
Certainly it was not, Madam. And again, let me apologize, and let me just state for the record, we did give you corrected summary information last night. We're working to get you the backup for that.
Right. Thank you. Ms. King, let me just apologize to you in my opening remarks. I didn't mention the importance of the GAO and the information that you've provided. And I also appreciate the comments that you've made about the improvements that have been made in our fraud prevention through Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. And it's interesting to me that on the Republican side, concerns seem to be raised on, what's going to happen if Obamacare disappears, since almost every week that we're in session, there are efforts to get rid of Obamacare. Clearly, we would want fraud mechanisms and prevention to go forward. This isn't the first time that Dr. Burgess has raised this. He also seemed concerned of what's going to happen to doctor fees if Obamacare goes away. These are things that perhaps before asking for its repeal that my Republican colleagues might have thought about, in addition to the millions of people who have already benefited from the provisions in that legislation. I also just wanted to point out that we don't have to look any further than recent headlines to see the priority that the Obama administration has placed on fighting fraud and the enhanced tools provided to CMS by Obamacare to fight fraud. Just yesterday, the Justice Department announced that OrthoFix, Inc., a medical device company, agreed to pay $34.2 million to resolve civil claims that the company defrauded the Medicare program when selling bone growth stimulator devices. Last month was the biggest crackdown on Medicare fraud in history. The Medicare Fraud Strike Force uncovered $452 million worth of false billings to Medicare by more than 100 people in 7 cities, including Chicago, which is my hometown, across the country. So let me ask you, Mr. Doolittle, why do we rely on these private entities to engage in this, and exactly what we're going to do to make sure that they're performing? Before you do, let me just say that it's also been sort of a religion on the other side of the aisle that always the private sector does better than the public sector, and now they want to move Medicare itself into the private sector through a voucher program and the Medicare Advantage program, where I know we've found many examples of fraud, even though the companies haven't always found the fraud. So let me just ask you about these private contractors and how we're going to keep them in line.
So first, why do we rely on the contractors? This is the system that was set up by Congress, and we're vigorously implementing it. In terms of oversight of our contractors, we have a vigorous system of oversight for the zone program integrity contractors. We have rotations, training rotations every other week where they come into our headquarters. Each one of the contractors has at least one full-time employee that is assigned to oversight. We do site visits. We do random pulls of files. We also, at the end of the year, go through an award fee process, go carefully through their performance, and they can qualify for some. There's mostly a fixed cost contract, but there's some awards that they can qualify for. So those are some of our oversight tools.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from Nebraska is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Doolittle, I don't think anyone on our side of the aisle has accused you of purposefully deceiving us. So I'm a little, I want to make sure you didn't feel that way. I mean, we're being accused of that, but I just want to make sure that we knew it was a mistake. There was no malfeasance, but it does show just, you know, that there's a level of inability to really keep track of the numbers there, and that's what we're trying to fix here. And also, on one other point that goes to my question to you, Mr. Doolittle, is perhaps if we had a Medicare fraud reform bill, it would have been very bipartisan, and truly I think the way that every business model is working is to the Moneyball predictive prevention model. If baseball can develop it, CMS can develop it. Predictive preventive fraud analysis. And the beauty of, or what makes it best business practice now with as predictive as we can make it, is that when those anomalies occur, like Mr. Burgess brought up, where there's a spike and increase of home health care, those things tend to stand out like a sore thumb. You then can go back and say, okay, something in our predictive analysis is showing an anomaly that we need to investigate here. So in baseball and Moneyball, it's that pitcher that you thought was going to have so many strikeouts per year and isn't performing. That stands out in your predictive analysis. So I like that you're going in that direction. So let me ask you, you mentioned that you'll have kind of the rough draft by December 31st, or you hope that is that an accurate statement or regurgitation of your testimony, December 31st?
So what I was speaking of on September 30th, under the provisions of the Small Business Jobs Act of 2011, we're required to provide Congress with a report on the first year of our predictive modeling system. So the predictive modeling is already in place now? Right. It started in June 30th of last year. We were we were assigned to start it in 10 states by July of last year. Instead, we started in 50 states one day early. And all right. So by December 31st, we'll have the first year rough analysis of its working or not working. And we hope to have some. Who's in charge of developing that model? Is that you or some other? I would think there's probably multiple mathematicians doing this. That facility is contained within my unit, the Center for Program Integrity. Okay. And contractors that we're using as well. We're working closely with OIG through the whole process also. What are some of the, I guess if it's predictive, what are you looking at? What area of statistics are you looking at from your contractors to be able to determine if there's anomalies that are occurring? So there's a variety of different types of predictive modeling, and I'd be happy to go into this at great depth, but there's the most sophisticated types of predictive modeling, which we're starting to do. It's rare even in private industry, but in the government we're starting to do it, is where you take attributes of known bad guys, you develop what characteristics they might have in common, and then you apply it to the raw data set and see who fits that model.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And Ms. King, I want to ask a question, maybe Mr. Vito, if you can help us here. But Mr. Doolittle made a statement that I think is fairly correct and may answer why many of us feel like private sector can do things more nimbly, not necessarily better, but they've adopted more of the predictive analysis, fraud prevention in the private sector. So do we have any comparison of the ability of government CMS to detect and prevent fraud as compared to the private sector insurance companies?
We're also looking at the fraud prevention system and the predictive analytics, and we'll have a report out later this fall. And as part of that, we are looking at how does what CMS does compare to what's going on in the private sector.
All right,
so
thank
we'll
you.
be able to answer some.
Mr. Vito, do you want to add quickly on top?
I think in general we don't have the oversight of the private, but we do see that some of our cases identify problems that are occurring in the private sector, and we share with them. In addition to that, we have other work where we're going out to all the managed care companies and asking if they had identified incidents of fraud, waste, and abuse, and they had. In addition to that, we have some new work that will be coming out on the medics, and the medics now have responsibility for Part C, which is the Medicare Advantage, and we will be able to give you details on that.
Thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Castor, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you for calling this hearing on the Obama administration's efforts to fight fraud in Medicare. I think it's very important, and I'd like to thank our expert panel for being here today. From where I sit, I believe the Obama administration has a very strong record on rooting out fraud and waste in Medicare. See, I represent the Tampa Bay area in Florida, and we are one of the 7 communities across the country. I guess Florida has been a hot spot in South Florida, but also in the Tampa Bay area. So we have one of those strike forces that brings together the United States Attorney's Office, HHS, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, other law enforcement agencies, the Department of Justice, and my colleague, Ranking Member DeGette, asked you all, have you achieved results yet? Well, from what I've seen, you all have been very aggressive. We had a major bust last month, arrested a pharmacist that has been a real fraudster. You've also arrested a lot of folks all across the state. That followed on last year another huge roundup of people who are bilking Medicare and really putting the trust fund at risk. So my hat's off to the aggressive stance the Obama administration has taken to root out fraud and waste in Medicare. And I'm very gratified that you all are putting the tools provided in the Affordable Care Act to good use. We gave you some additional tools under the Affordable Care Act to be more aggressive. And it feels like you're just getting started, but I think we're seeing significant progress already. I think there is one problem area that I think deserves attention and should be improved when it comes to the ZIPICs and these audits. I'm hearing from a lot of folks all across the state. They kind of feel like this is the Wild West because these auditors come in and there's no real due process. There are no real checks and balances. And I don't think it's fair for an auditor to come in to upset their business, to take documents and not have some time frame for or even a dialogue. It's kind of a one-way dialogue, and I think these businesses deserve to have some due process rights. Tell me, Mr. Doolittle, who trains the ZIPIC staff on Medicare policy? What is their experience auditing claims, and who ensures that that training is adequate, and what rules govern the ZIPIC audit procedures?
So we within CMS train the ZPICs on a regular, ongoing basis. As I mentioned before, every other week, one of the ZPICs is at our headquarters for training. We're constantly going out to them to train them on various aspects. I believe that the problem that you're referring to, and I agree it's a problem, is probably stemming from what we call prepayment edits, prepayment medical review. That is a tough system. Obviously, fraud is a tough problem. It is a tough system. I will say that I have started to review our processes on that. We have to stay tough, but we have to be fair as well. So we're trying to take a fresh look at that.
Are there rules that govern time frames that the auditors, so that it's not completely open-ended? What are the due process rights for some of these businesses?
So the way the due process works is they're able to, after the claim is examined and determined whether it's denied or paid, they can appeal a denial. Now that they still stay on prepay, and that's the frustrating part for the providers. That is very
frustrating,
right?
Because it's so open-ended.
Yes.
And and then they're also hiring subcontractors. Do the same rules apply to the subcontractors? Are these subcontractors approved by CMS? We've had cases where they've had to give files to these subcontractors, and it's months and months and months and months before they hear anything from an auditor or CMS.
So if the ZPICs were to use subcontractors, they would have to be approved by our office. Yes. Okay.
I'm going to submit some other questions for the record from CMS on the ZPICs, because when people are calling it the Wild West, and you're subjecting, I know you're going to catch some fraudsters, but you're subjecting good businesses to a process that doesn't appear to have any end and appears to be unreasonable. I think there's a lot of room for improvement here.
I agree with that. Can I just say that as we try to become more aggressive, we feel that one of the down payments we have to put on the table is we have to be fair to the vast majority of good and honest providers. And we're trying to work from several angles, including, for instance, we recently implemented a new process, totally new process, by which a provider whose number has been scammed, their provider number has been scammed, and they found out that when they receive a bill from the IRS for the $2 million of income they never received, it's an innocent provider. Before, they'd been left to their own devices to try to find their way out of that jam. If we're convinced that as an innocent provider, we now have a systematized process where we're able to go out to help that provider and even help them work through their issues with the Department of the Treasury.
Good. I'll look forward to the answers to these additional questions.
Thank you.
I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the bell has rung, and we're going to have votes. And I know that Mr. Griffith has some questions. I do have a couple of things I want to ask you, because being from Tennessee and having had TennCare, which I know all three of you are familiar with the TennCare program, which is our Medicaid delivery, we have been on the fraud issue for a long time. And I did the first field hearing on fraud dealing with TennCare and Medicaid delivery systems in 2004, and then another one in 2005 in our district in Tennessee. So I've got a couple of things I want to quickly go into, and then Mr. Griffith will be able to get his questions in. Let's look first, and Mr. Doolittle, I guess this probably would best come to you. Let me just direct it to you, and then if either of you want to add something, that'll be great. DME claims. The DME POS claim, the average is estimated at $75 per month. with the low being only a couple of dollars per month to a higher range of several $100s per month, or a one-time sale. Yet we're hearing that the ZPIC and the other audit process is very paper-intensive. The auditors may send one letter per patient claim audited, and it's all in separate envelopes, takes a lot of work. So you've got thousands of separate mailings, etc. Private insurers are sending one spreadsheet, and they're working from that, or they're getting one email. So we've heard that some of the auditors are asking for the same paperwork for the same patients month after month, and even though the patient is chronically ill. So I'd like to know what you have in place to look at that high administrative burden and the cost of auditing that this is for our providers, and what is the return on investment on what is a very expensive and labor-intensive process for these providers, and what can you learn from them and incorporate into these Medicare audits?
So I certainly appreciate the comment about the labor intensiveness, and we are always looking for ways to streamline and aggregate it. Of course, it's frustrating and aggravating to get 500 letters where you could get one letter describing the same similar situations for 500. In terms of DME, we've taken a variety of special approaches. As you know, it is an area that is of extremely high risk, and we have to be as careful as possible. There were several provisions in the ACA that have dramatically reduced the DME cost, including the face-to-face requirement, the requirement that a doctor meet face-to-face before a DME prescription, as well as a surety bond requirement. So we feel, and we feel that we have opened a dialogue as well with the providers. We feel that we're on track to try to rationalize the system while still clamping down very hard in what is a very fraud prevalent area.
Okay, well, it's important to us because one of the things that we have found through our experience with TennCare was that if you've got someone that is more prone to fraud, you're going to have unnecessary care that is in there, and then it's going to be more difficult on the other end that you're able to process these claims. If you simplify your system, if you make it easier for people to read through, if you're getting one email and one spreadsheet instead of all these separate mailings, cleaning this system up, we're going to have a better outcome and a better quality of care. It is all related. We want to work with you on this. We'd love to see a timeline for moving some of these forward. Now, I'm going to yield back my time.
Okay, the gentleman from West Virginia is recognized. There's still time.
If I could take
She didn't yield
Ms.
back.
Blackburn's 23 seconds.
Yes, go ahead.
I'll just make a quick statement. It appears that we're failing in tracking down the fraud that we should be tracking down. I know everybody's trying. It's not a Democrat problem. It's not a Republican problem. It's the government is failing the people. And this is extremely important to all of us on both sides of the aisle. And I'll just tell you quickly that last night at the teletown hall meeting, the lady was wondering why her home health was being cut back because she has MS, her mother has diabetes. These are real life problems for folks out there. So all I can say to you is get us better numbers and track down the bad guys, because as a team working for the American people, we have got to stop this fraud. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And the gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These will be yes or no questions to the witnesses. As we all know, Medicare fraud is a serious issue, costing us billions of dollars, an unacceptable situation. Now, because of the deplorable nature of Medicare fraud and abuse, this committee and I worked hard to make sure that the Affordable Care Act gave the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services new tools to fight the swindlers who perpetrate these frauds. Mr. Doolittle, I want to thank you for being here today, and I want you to know we appreciate your hard work in fighting Medicare fraud. Now, yes or no, We all agree that CMS must move away from the pay and chase models to more proactively mechanisms to catch wrongdoers. Since the Affordable Care Act has passed, CMS has begun screening providers and suppliers on 3 risk levels: limited, moderate, and high. Will screening based on risk levels help CMS to better target their resources to high-risk suppliers and providers? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, does CMS have the ability to adjust the level of risk for screening as needed? For example, if you have a low-risk provider or supplier whose billing privileges have been revoked, would they be subject to high-level screening? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
CMS has begun conducting announced and unannounced site visits of moderate and high-risk providers prior to initial enrollment or revalidation since the Affordable Care Act. How many site visits does CMS intend to conduct?
Over 50,000 additional site visits over what we were doing before.
Is that number sufficient?
It's a start. We'll see how we are at this time next year.
Do you believe that the site visits will better help CMS to identify if providers or suppliers are legitimate and meet Medicare standards? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
As a part of your screening process, do you now have the ability to terminate from Medicare providers that have already been terminated from any Medicaid programs? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
The Affordable Care Act provided nearly $500 million in increased funding to help fund efforts like those to fight fraud. Does CMS have the resources it needs, financial and personal, to fight fraud in Medicare and Medicaid? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
At the beginning of May, the Medicare Fraud Strike Force took down 107 individuals for $452 million in false Medicare billing. In Detroit alone, 22 defendants were arrested for $58 million in Medicare fraud. This involved the highest amount of false Medicare billings in a single takedown in your strike force history. As a member who has participated in one of these ride-alongs of the strike force, I know they're working hard to recover taxpayers' dollars. Do you know the Affordable Care Act requires CMS to share data with the states, the Department of Justice, and the Inspector General, amongst others, to help fraud and abuse? Will this authority help the strike force continue their good work?
Yes, sir.
Would you submit to us any additional authorities that you might need in that particular? For the record, please. Is it fair to say that the Affordable Care Act significantly increases the ability to suspend payments until an investigation is complete so that Medicare does not make overpayments or payments for false services? Yes or no?
Yes, it is fair.
Is this sufficient? Is
Yes.
this authority sufficient?
Yes.
Now, would you agree that because of the Affordable Care Act, CMS now has the most tools it's ever had to detect and prevent fraud, waste, and abuse? Yes or no?
Yes.
Would you submit to us, if you please, sir, whether additional authority is needed and how your authorities are working, and whether new authorities are needed and what they might be? For the record.
Yes, sir.
Please. Mr. Chairman, I thank you.
Thank the gentleman, and he made some very good points. You have all the tools you need, as you pointed out. By unanimous consent, the documents that Mr. Gett has requested is part of the record.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't yet request them. There are
what-
statements from the American Medical Association and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees.
Okay, by unanimous consent, so ordered. I want to thank the witnesses for coming today, for the testimony, and members for their devotion to this hearing today. The committee rules provide that members have 10 days to submit additional questions for the record to the witnesses. With that, the committee is adjourned.